Yes, what is happening? So, I'm actually on my way to Ultraflex to train with my friend Ryan, or Troy Ryan as he's known, within the wrestling circles, and I'm going to be doing a video of that session. However, because I do hold my own, editing, and I've got my own clients and everything like that, I won't be able to get that video out till tomorrow night, but I wanted to get a video out for you tonight. So, while I'm driving, I'm just going to kind of see where things go. And I'm going to talk a little bit about mindset. The mindset you need to transform your physique, whether that's fat loss, whether that's building muscle, whether that's completely transforming your body altogether. And there's certain things that you need to do to be able to do that, especially when you get to a certain age, especially if you're not wanting to use steroids. Like, one thing is, I've got nothing against people using steroids. Like, there's a misconception that maybe I do. Like I say, I've dabbled in the past. I've never done it there's actually a video in here about my experiences with steroids. Like I say, I dabbled, but I never did like a proper course. I never understood it at the time. So, there was like short-term gain, but then feeling like shit afterwards. And yeah, so, but like I say, right now, looking to transform my physique, to get into the absolute best possible shape I can before I'm 40, without the use of PEDs and everything. And also as well, just some of the things that I've learned through my time in coaching, that the most successful people, like the traits that the most successful people that I've coached and when I've been more successful have kind of done. And so I'm going to kind of go through it. I'm going to go through a little bit of, mindset, a bit of nutrition, a bit of training. And the first thing when it comes to mindset is accepting that you are going to have to do things that you need to do even when you've got things on. So there are going to be times when life throws you curveballs, things are going to be hard, you're going to have maybe family members pass, you're going to have, bad things happen to you. But you've got to be able to compartmentalise that, keep moving forward, keep doing the things that you need to do, and knowing what you need to do on the day-to-day, like the bare minimum. Sometimes just getting that done is enough. But what happens is people allow bad things to happen, and well, no, they don't allow bad things to happen. When bad things happen, they allow things to spiral. They allow, oh, it's been tough, I'm going to treat myself and all this. But the thing is, you're not really treating yourself. What you're doing is putting yourself further away, making you feel worse. The amount of people I've spoken to that have spiraled because of something has gone on and they've acted on emotion instead of logic, and then they feel worse for it. They never, ever, ever feel better for it. So it's working out, your coping mechanisms, the bare minimum standard that you need to hit each day to continue to move forward. And in most cases, even this is whether you're looking to put muscle on, whether you're looking to lose fat. The bare minimum standard usually is, have you done your training session? If you've got a training session scheduled, have you eaten healthy, clean, single ingredient foods? In the most part, stuck to your calories, hit your protein. Have you kept yourself hydrated? And they're the main things to think about, and it's like, so just have a little think, what is the bare minimum standards on the days where you are struggling? Because like I say, if every single time something that you perceive as bad happens, you end up going off the rails, and this is true with weekends as well. The amount of people that, quote unquote, do well Monday to Friday and then go completely off the rails at the weekend, and then wonder why they're not losing weight, wonder why the body's not transforming, wondering why they feel shit on a Monday. Sometimes you've got to realise that to get a result that you want to get, you do have to sacrifice in some areas. And that's not to say that you can't ever go out for a drink again, you can't ever go out for a meal again. But there's got to be give and take. If you continue to do the things that you've always done, you're going to get the same results that you've always had. So I know for me personally, one of my favourite things is to take my wife out for meals. And when we do often, we're actually going out this Friday, and I'll be having a couple of beers as well. But at the moment, I'm in the mass gaining phase. My calories are at 3,200 as of today. And we can incorporate these kind of things. You know, I've planned for it. I know what my food's going to be for the week. I know what that's going to do. I know that there's going to be a spike on the scales the next day. So I already know what I'm going to be having for breakfast the day after. I've actually already tracked for a bacon bun the day after we go out, because I know that's what I'll feel like in the morning. So instead of trying to fight it, it's about being one step ahead, and you've got to do that. You've got to make sure you are one step ahead. It is incredibly, incredibly important. And the thing is, you've got to ask yourself, how long have you been wanting to do this for? You know, and things only change if you allow them to change. And it's one of them as well. What you focus on grows, you know. So whatever you're putting your focus into is what you're going to become. People talk about law of attraction and things like that. I don't necessarily believe in the law of attraction, but I believe in where you put your focus, that's where your energy is going to flow. But the thing is, whatever you decide to focus on, you've got to ask yourself, what does that mean? What does this thing mean? And once you've put a meaning against it, that's when you can make an informed decision on what you want to do. So a lot of people put the focus into things that they can do absolutely nothing about. Then they get pissed off about it. Like I say, then things spiral. But you've got to put meaning behind everything. So if you're focusing on something, for example, right, I'm going to go into the gym today, and instead of thinking, I don't want to do that, if you focus on, right, I'm going to the gym today, and then what that means is you're going to come out a little bit stronger, you're going to feel better at the back end of it, and then your action off the back of that is, right, boom, I'm going to go and do it. And that's how you want to be making your decisions. So for example here as well, if you decide to focus on the news and watching the news on telly and everything is just bad news, it's all stuff that you have no control over, then the decision off the back of that, in my opinion, should be stop watching the news. Because then you won't have that. Because, you know, if you focus on that, you're just going to get more mad, more angry. So like I say, where you put your focus and the meaning you put behind it, and then the action that you make based on your meaning is incredibly important there. So I hope that makes sense. So the next thing that my number one clients do is they track their food. People think that they can just eat intuitively, and they understand that, oh, I've eaten pretty well this week. In most cases, people eat far much more food than they actually need. All the little hidden calories, the little biscuit, the sauces, the oils and everything that you're putting on your food. When you actually track your food and you're accountable to what you're tracking and you track everything you're eating, you'll actually realise that you are, in most cases, eating too much. So, like I say, you need to know what you're eating. You need to know your calories, your protein, particularly your calories and protein. Because like I say, just I'm eating healthy, I'm on a health kick. That's not going to get you to where you want to be. It is as simple as that. And like I say, it doesn't mean you can't have a drink again. It doesn't mean, you know, you can't go out for a meal again. There's means and ways around this kind of stuff, but you do have to be accountable to it, because at the end of the day, if you say, oh, I'm eating healthy, I don't understand why I'm not losing weight, you're not in a calorie deficit, so you're eating too much. It is actually that simple, and you have to take cognizance of that, and that's why tracking food is mega important. So, from a training aspect as well, when we're in the gym, we want to be making sure we are putting the most effort in that we can. It is mega important. I keep saying mega important, right? But it really, really is. And tracking what you're doing in the gym is also important as well. Now, if you've been training for years, you can do it off feel. You know when you're coming to the end of a set and it feels good for you, totally fine. Not a problem. But if you're new to the gym, or if you're just getting started up again, or you haven't been for a few years, what you ought to do is get yourself a plan, and you ought to go in and baseline your weights. So how many reps have you done? How much weight have you done for that amount of reps? And then the next session when you go in, you ought to be improving on that. So you ought to be doing an extra rep. Then when you get up to, like, say 12 to 15 reps, what you ought to do is you ought to up the weight and then go again until you can do 12, 15 reps, and then keep repeating that process, and you are going to get stronger. Your muscle's going under a new stress each time, so it's got to break down. And then as long as your protein and your calories are where they're meant to be, it's going to repair and grow back stronger. But what a lot of people do is they'll go into the gym, they'll do the same, you know, whether that's 3 sets of 10 or whatever. And that's why I always ask my clients to send me form videos. And 9 times out of 10, it's not the form that's the issue, it's whether they are pushing themselves hard enough in the sets. So the first thing I always ask them if I feel they could have done more is, watch that video back, do you think you could have done more? And 9 times out of 10, it's usually a case of, yeah, I actually could have. So you think you're working hard, but in some instances, you could be working harder, and you've got to put yourself under stress. You've got to put yourself under tension. Now, that's not to say be reckless, form go out of the window and everything, because the last thing you want is an injury. But making sure that you are, you know, training with progressive overload like we spoke about there, about moving up the reps and then moving up the weight. And also as well with the intensity where you want to be, you know, either like 1 rep in reserve or all the way to failure, depending on what exercise it means. And 1 rep in reserve basically means if someone had a gun to your head, you know, you could manage to do 1 more rep. That's what I mean by 1 rep in reserve. And you can build some good quality muscle on pushing yourself that far. But if you do it and you're at that point of the set that you could have done 5, 6, 7 more, you need to get that weight upped immediately. And like I say, the guys that make the best transformations, like, it's one thing losing body fat. You can train not that great and lose body fat. But if you're wanting to transform your physique, lifting correctly, lifting intensely, upping your weights is so important. And like I say, that's why I always want my clients, and my best clients do this, and that's what I'm talking about here, is they will send me over form videos, we will critique it, we will look through it together, and then what I will do is I will ask for the same exercise to be sent to me next week so we can ensure that we are seeing the improvements there. So that's another thing that we do. So another thing that is of huge importance, and this is what I do every week to my coach and what my best clients do to me, is they will check in whether it is good, bad, indifferent. What I mean by checking in, because I appreciate a lot of it is coach talk, is for the week, like I say, we track our calories, we track our lifts, you know, we have a look at our energy levels, we weigh ourselves each day so we can have a look at the averages. And then once a week, we will have a full check-in where we go through how we've been feeling this week and just a few questions in general. And then what we would do is we make any adjustments, you know, based on the answers there, based on the numbers and all that kind of good stuff as well. Now, the absolute best clients do this, whether it has been a good week or a bad week, or a perceived good or bad week, because sometimes we can catastrophize in our own heads and think the week's been worse than it actually has. But the best clients always make sure that they are checking in so we can make any changes. Like, I always set an alarm each week. I do my check-ins to my coach on a Monday, so 7 o'clock Monday morning, I do my check-in, how my week's gone, and then I actually look forward to hearing the feedback from my coach. And like I say, my absolute top clients, I know they're exactly the same. So that's another part of it. And that's why accountability is so important. When you don't have somebody holding you accountable, whether that's a coach, whether that's someone else you train with, you are going to let yourself off. It is very, very, very rare that people get themselves into incredible shape on their own, off their own back. Because the thing is, there's so much education out there, but there's a lot of different ways of doing it, and everything wants to be individualized to the person because everyone's different. Everyone's got different lifestyle challenges. You know, some people have kids, some people don't. Some people are working long shifts, some people are working night shifts. So, you know, there's so much that goes into each individual person. That's why, you know, you can go on ChatGPT and you can get yourself a workout and a nutrition plan. Literally, if you go and put in your age, height, weight, gender, all that kind of stuff in a ChatGPT, it'll give you a plan that if you followed, you would actually get in a really, really good shape. But that's not the problem. It's the human connection, it's the understanding of the lifestyle, it's the empathy, and it's them kind of things that make the real difference. And that's why I believe coaching is such a massive thing, and that's why it isn't something that's dirt cheap. There's a lot of work that goes into it, and essentially you're paying for the result. And that's, you know, that's what it's all about. And like, you got to ask yourself, like, oh, you know, how much does it cost you? How much is the result worth to you? If this is something that's meant a lot to you, and you've been trying to do this for 10 fucking years, and you keep failing, and each time you keep failing, that little bit more hope dies. And you got to ask yourself, you know, is it worth it? Is it worth reaching out? Is it worth speaking to someone? You know, if you do want to speak to me, like I said, the link to, you know, to book a call in with me, a coaching call, it's there in the bio. But it is, like I say, incredibly important. So kind of just to recap a bit, like I didn't put any notes for this video or anything, so it is a little bit of waffle. But like I say, mindset, you got to look longer term. You've got to see the bigger vision. Nutrition wise, you ought to be tracking what you're eating. You ought to be making sure you're hitting protein. You ought to be making sure, you know, you're hitting your calories. Training, you ought to be making sure you're pushing yourself as hard as you can. And then you ought to make sure you are being accountable to someone. But the thing is as well, the first person you got to be accountable to is yourself. You can't be accountable to someone else if you're not accountable to yourself. So I'm going to stop there because I appreciate I've been going on 15 minutes or so. But they are the things that my best clients do. And that's what, like I say, I do that has helped me get into the best shape of my life at 38 years old. So if this was useful, please drop a like, please subscribe, and keep your eyes out for tomorrow's video because it is the training session with Big Troy Ryan, and it is going to be an absolute banger.